everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Anna. I am a portrait photographer in the Chicagoland area, and today we're going to be talking about my Daphne inspired Halloween photo shoot. Like I had mentioned in my previous videos, I got red hair now, so I wanted to do Halloween costumes that are pertaining towards characters that have red hair. This costume is actually one that I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and it seemed pretty simple, so I was going to be doing Daphne from Scooby Doo. When it came to the costume that I was going to need, it actually is pretty simple. You are just going to need a long sleeve dark purple dress along with a lime green scarf and a light purple headband. The equipment that I was using that day was the Sony a7 III along with the 85mm lens. I am going to be using all GVM lights, so I used 2 of the GVM 1000Ds along with the GVM soft light. I do want to also quickly mention that I put a speed light behind me because I wanted to have a hair light included as well. Since this is a Halloween photo shoot, obviously you want the photo to become a little bit darker than other photos that you probably typically would be using. So when it came to the background, I wanted to make sure I used something dark, so I used pretty much a black backdrop. I was trying to figure out a couple ideas of what I wanted to do, so when it came to the photo that I was going to be doing, I wanted to reference this photo and use it as an inspiration to get me inspired to do something sort of similar. When it came to the positioning of the lighting, you're going to want to make sure that the main light is the closest and also brightest to the model. Next to that, you're going to have the other light that is going to be shooting bright green, so the highest hue that you can do, either if you're using a speed light with a gel or if you're using just an LED. Make sure that it's also just as bright because you're going to realize that the main light is going to be washing out that green. So you want to make sure that it's as bright as it can be. With the light on the model's left, you're going to want to make sure that it's also bright green, but less because it's going to be just hitting the shoulder and the back of the head. When it comes to the power of the speed light behind the subject, it really doesn't matter which power you set it as long as you're comfortable with the amount of light that's coming in. I just wanted to have a little pop to make sure that you could see the outline of my head. From there, you pretty much take your subject and position them in the right spot and take a couple photos. So after we got a couple photos that I liked, it was time to open up Photoshop and begin editing.
First thing that we're going to do is duplicate that smoke layer and stretch it to the desired effect. You can see that the top of the smoke is a less opacity compared to the bottom, so I want to make sure that that is where near my head is, and make sure that you select the background layer that has me on it, and on the left hand side select the object selection tool, which is then going to pretty much cut out me out of the photo. And you can go ahead and inverse it, so that way that's going to select everything outside of me, and make sure that you click the correct smoke effect and then click mask. You can change the opacity based on what you would like. I went ahead and did it to the top smoke as well as the smoke that is on the bottom, and you can also go ahead and change the desired effects of the adjustments. The other thing that you want to do on this photo is add some text. I downloaded a Scooby Doo text that I really liked, and essentially you can just drag it to the spot that you think will fit best and obviously adjust the sides accordingly. If you go ahead and double click onto the text, you're going to see that there is a warp option. So you have plenty of different options that you can do to select the specific warp effect that you want and then adjust it again to the desired spot that you would want. And that's pretty much the end of this edit.
The very first thing that I'm going to tell you guys when it came to modeling is to make sure that your model's expression matches the mood of the photo. After finishing editing the photo, I had realized that my eyes seemed pretty dead in regards to the facial expression that my mouth is making. I was supposed to be surprised, so my eyes were supposed to be widened a little bit, and I realized that that wasn't exactly the case. So when it comes to you as the photographer, if you're doing a self-portrait, or if you as the photographer are helping a model, make sure that the eyes also match the expression of everything else. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder when you are doing a self-portrait. So one thing that I can let you know, and models can do as well, is if you guys already know the intention of what the photo shoot's going to be, try practicing in the mirror a couple times to figure out which exact facial expression you're going to be using during the shoot. The next tip that I have for you is when it comes to your graphic elements, you can alter them a little bit. And what I mean by this is you can simply take a graphic element from the internet, download it, and then throw it into Photoshop and use it just like that. Or you can make it look a little more realistic and add some adjustments to it to make it seem like it's fitting the theme. So if we take the smoke element, for example, like I was using in the photo, you can obviously use different adjustments, and I personally like screen and lighten as the first two things that I normally do with a lot of my graphic elements anyway, and then change the opacity based on how you like it. If you are trying to make the photo a little more realistic, I would try to make sure that you pay attention to the foreground and the background. If you have something in the foreground, you are going to have to make sure that that is brighter in the photo, and then as things start to go back, it's going to get slightly darker. So make sure that your elements that are behind the subject are also darker. Another thing that I do want to add is don't be afraid to use some blur. I want to make sure that you guys pay attention to keeping things realistic. So let's say, for example, I'm taking a tree straight from the internet and downloading it straight into Photoshop. If the tree is in the exact same focus and the exact same focal point as the subject, even though your tree element is supposed to be behind the subject, it's gonna look a little weird. So try to add a little bit of blur to make sure that it is following the same type of aperture and the same type of blur that's also in the background. The last tip that I have for you is when it comes to adding text elements, make sure that it also matches the theme. And what I mean by this is Daphne has specific iconic phrases that she says throughout the show, and also the show has a very good tagline. So if you are doing a photo with your character as Daphne and you want to make sure that people are aware that it is Scooby Doo and you are adding some text, make sure that it follows the exact same thing as what the normal posters use. So obviously in Scooby Doo, it is pretty important that you also add "Where are you?" because that is a lot of things that happen in the theme song as well as on the poster. So that is something that you also probably want to include as well. A quick side note that I also want to mention is props are going to be super important in a photo like this. The show pertains towards characters that are looking for clues in order to find the monster. So obviously having a magnifying glass would be perfect to give the illusion that I am searching for something. I know that Velma is usually the one that's holding the magnifying glass, but I couldn't really think of something that Daphne uses. So I knew that having the magnifying glass would also give a very cohesive idea that this is still Scooby Doo. But I am going to mention that you have to be careful when it comes to using a glass or something that is reflective, is that when I was taking these photos, I realized that the blinds that were coming in from the room was also reflecting through the glass. So I needed to make sure that I positioned it in a way that I was focusing more towards the soft light that I was using to add more of a magical effect. But that is the end of this video. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified every single time I post a new video. If you're interested in more videos just like this, I have a playlist created where I go over album covers and movie posters and I try to recreate them. So that will be listed up here as well as in the description box below. If you're interested in traveling the world with me and seeing what I do in my free time, I will also list the playlist down below. But that is all that I have for you guys. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Happy Halloween!